I just want to make a point here because you've got the first side of the album, or the first disc rather, you've got all that Lumpy Gravy outtake dialogue. And
okay, you mean up in there number 1, 2, and 3?
On the first disc, like from This Is Phase III up until End Light.
That's what I meant. 1, 2, 3.
4, 5, 6, blah blah blah, up to 19.
Right.
On the first side, it's all like from Lumpy Gravy era. And then disc 2, you got the same characters from the Lumpy Gravy era, and then you've got the bleeding in now of these new characters like Moon and all the European voices and all that kind of stuff. It's almost like the thinning of the veil or the opening of the portals, and you've got these groups like in Fringe where the two worlds are coming together and they end up in the same piano.
Right. And I'm thinking also it's the more mixed up society of America, more immigrants, more everything in the 80s and 90s. It's later.
Yeah. But it's also really pronounced, the way that he's done this, is that you've got the ambience that's inside the original piano people on disc 1, and it's contrasted with this new 1990s recorded sound of these people with Moon, and it's very different. Like the whole...
Yeah, they're more paranoid, more pissed off. They're all trying to find a little bit of old America, which wasn't so desperate in the 60s.
Right, but they're in the same piano.
Yeah. Oh, it's always the world government, the solar government, the same industrial structure. The same cheese, as he writes in that editorial for op-ed for Newsweek in 1981. You ever read that? That's pretty good. Yeah, maybe we should bring that up. Have you ever seen the cheese?
Oh, that government cheese stuff?
No. He wrote, he was commissioned by Newsweek to write a thing on America, and he did. And they rejected it. Let me just Google it. If you've never read that, that'll explain it'll be like the transition to the second part. Let me see. So write in Zappa, Newsweek. I got this weird echo. I don't know if that's going on the tape. You guys hear that?
I can hear it, sort of.
Yeah, it's probably going to screw up the recording, for whatever reason. Here it is. Frank exposed...
It's not that pronounced, but anyway, I can hear it. Low.
Yeah, it's the other Bob. Okay, Frank Zappa. You got here, Frank exposes the pharaoh destiny of the poodle in his text, Say Cheese. This article is written at the request of Newsweek. Okay, so maybe I'm going to get it here. It's a book. Now they're going to have... It's some essay on Zappa. How can I get it? See, some sites, I don't have them handy right now. You'd think we prepare for this.
You want the full text? I have it.
Yeah.
I found it.
Okay, great. Okay. Send it. Let's go through it because it's appropriate.
Okay.
It's about the transition. It's the 80s and the yuppie concern about money and investment and the Federal Reserve and everything. And he's writing it in 81, so it's about the boom period, and then it all collapses. And I guess the second phase is not the collapse, but it's getting close to it. Everybody's feeling a little pressed.
Yeah. Okay, I sent it. You should have it now.
Okay. Let's see there it is. Say Cheese. Yeah, Kill Ugly Radio. That's a good site. How did you know that? You just put it in?
Oh, I Googled it. But the URL that I sent, it might not work. You might have to...
it doesn't work.
Dots up. You got to add 2 more dots at the end. It doesn't seem to convey when I send it by email. So
after
make sure there's 3 dots. After cheese, 3 dots.
3 dots. Okay. Shall I read it?
Sure.
Read it into the record, the congressional record? Okay, Zappa says, this article was originally prepared for publication in Newsweek magazine. After it was sent to them, they rejected, saying that it was too idiosyncratic. Now, that's the beginning of Zappa becoming obsolete as the old-fashioned individualist. Now the corporate mind's taken over after the near collapse of the economy in 81, 82. It was a bad time, and then everybody becomes a yuppie fanatic, and they run to Wall Street. So he says, since we needed something to fill up the space, this article will now meet its destiny as decorative filler material. Okay, so idiosyncratic, you get that, right? I mean,
what does idiosyncratic mean?
Too individualistic, too eccentric, too strange, too subjective, he's talking about cheese. It's called Say Cheese. Now, what's that got to do with anything? But unless you're in the Zappa world where cheese is an important metaphor, it doesn't mean anything. He's not putting enough of the corporate language on. But he actually does touch on all the corporate topics of the time. So he says, say cheese. It has been suggested. Now, see, everybody in the 80s becomes an expert on money. So he's going to talk about economics. That was the main theme, right? I don't know if you remember that. Everybody was worried about the economy. It has been suggested that the gross national product is perhaps not the best indicator of how well we are doing as a society, since it tells us nothing about the quality of our lives. Now, this is Zappa being a little old-fashioned, talking about the quality. After the 70s, nobody had time to worry about the quality. But is this... Now he actually brings up my point. But is this worth dwelling upon as we grovel our way along in the general direction of the 21st century? So he's saying it's not even worth, post-information society, the gross national product, wait a minute, it's perhaps but this, I actually misinterpreted that. He means the gross national product is not worth dwelling upon. I thought he meant even bring up the quality of our lives was not worth it. So I sped ahead too fast. So him being worried about the gross national product is rather old-fashioned. When future historians write about us, they base their conclusions on whatever material goods survive from present-day America. When future historians write about us, they base their conclusions on whatever material goods survive from present-day America, we will undoubtedly stand alone among nations and be known forevermore as those who chose cheese. As you will recall, folks, nobody ever had as much going for them in the beginning as we did. Let's face it, we were fantastic. Today, unfortunately, we're merely weird. Remember we talked about the essence of life is denoting the weirdness? So this is actually interesting. He's just retrieving a sense everybody's weird and then making... And that's pretty weird to talk about this stuff in an editorial op-ed, right? Unfortunately, they're going to think we're just strange, but take that the essence of life is weirdness. He could be meaning that as a subplot. Who went out?
Not me, I'm here.
Oh, yeah, it was James.
It's funny as we get near the end that people start dropping off like flies. A little more and speed it up. Today, unfortunately...
what's the cheese reference? Cheese is what you want, or it's money, or it's... what's the cheese?
We're going to find out. He doesn't say. Those who will be known forevermore as those who chose cheese. So then he begins. He says, today we are merely weird.
Yeah, who's he referencing, and who's we?
He says it, the next line. Yeah, red-blooded American.
Well, not every red-blooded American thinks of themselves as being weird.
Well, actually, it's not. You don't have the thing to read?
I'm looking at it.
Okay, so I'm not sure if that's what it said. I'm just glancing at it. Okay, you ready? Here we go. Today, did you hear the weird part, James?
Yeah.
Yeah. Today, unfortunately, we're merely weird, which is interesting. Zappa said, life was weird. And I was saying that, having that sensibility. Well, we've extended.
He's saying that we're here is weird. That we're even here is weird.
Yeah, that's the archetypal, neat meaning of weird. He's actually, society has extended that condition. He's going into the collective weird. So he says, this is a shocking thing to say, since no red-blooded American likes to think of his or herself as being weird. But when there are other options and a whole nation chooses cheese, that is weird. What is interesting, he's sort of updating what he said, 10 years... I don't
know what he means by cheese. I don't know what he means by cheese.
It's coming up.
Okay.
Okay. The thing is, he's taking the weird theme 10 years later. I mean, he said it to New York Times, something like that, and he's expanding it. This is interesting how there's a conceptual continuity with a shift. Our mental health has been in a semi-wretched condition for quite some time now. One of the reasons for this distress, aside from choosing cheese as a way of life, is the fact that we have, against some incredibly stiff competition, emerged victorious as the biggest bunch of liars on the face of the planet. Now, this is LaRouche. He's missing the McLuhan post-information aspect, right? This is old-fashioned. No society has managed to invest more time and energy in the perpetuation of the fiction that it is moral, sane, and wholesome than our current crop of modern Americans. So he's objecting to what the Android meme presents as the image of America. And the Android meme's doing it to bug people. So he's not getting that. This same delusion is the mysterious force behind our national desire to avoid behaving in any way that might be construed as intelligent. Modern Americans behave as if intelligence was some sort of hideous deformity. To cosmetize it, many otherwise normal citizens attempt a peculiar type of self-inflicted homemade mental nose job designed to lower the recipient's social intellectual profile to the point where the ability to communicate on the most Mongolian level provides the necessary certification to become one of the guys. Let's face it, nobody wants to hang out with somebody who's smarter than they are. This is no fun. So you see how he wafts between a traditional critique of the dumbing down America to an eccentric angle on it. The whole thing is, what is this cheese? Americans have always valued the idea of fun. We have a national craving for fun. Remember that line in the Life magazine article? Can a force this powerful be used by a society that is obsolete? You remember that line?
No.
Okay, where did I read it again? It came up in some Zappa stuff we were reading. He says at the end of the Life magazine, can a force this powerful be used by a society that needs all the friends that it can get? Remember that line?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay, so that means a force that within the fact that Americans like fun. We don't get very much of it anymore. That's true. Now that's where he's being, the little kid, Emperor's New Clothes. He's pointing out that people are rather stressed out, and he does say that, stressed cheese. So we don't get very much of it anymore. So we do two things. First, we rummage around for anything that might be fun. Then, since it really wasn't fun stuff in the first place, we pretend to enjoy it, whatever it was. The net result, stressed cheese. See that, Scott?
Yeah.
But where does all this cheese really come from? It wouldn't be fair to blame it all on TV, although some credit must... there's the little McLuhan thing. Surface McLuhan. It wouldn't be fair to blame it all on TV, although some credit must be given to whoever it is at each of the networks that gives us what we want. You don't ask, you don't get. Folks, we now have got it. Lots of it. And in our infinite American wisdom, we have constructed elaborate systems to ensure that future generations will have an even more abundant supply of that fragrant substance upon which we presently thrive. Now, this is interesting. So he's taking on McLuhan. If we can't blame it on the TV, then where does it come from? He's being a little old-fashioned, though, because it actually is virtual reality that's doing it, post-TV. Now, he might know that, right? So he's just putting on the very average thinking.
Dumbing it down for the article, yeah.
Right. If we can't blame it on TV, then where does it come from? Obviously, we are weird if we have to ask such a question. Surely we must realize by now, except for the fact that we lie to ourselves so much that we get confused sometimes, surely we must realize by now that as contemporary Americans, we have an almost magical ability to turn anything we touch into a festering mound of self-destructing poot. How can we do this with such incredible precision? Well, one good way is to form a committee. Committees composed of all kinds of desperate American types have been known to convert the combined unfulfilled emotional needs and repressed biological urges of their memberships into complex masses of cheese-like organisms at the rap of a gavel. Committee cheese, Scott. Committee cheese is usually sliced very thin then bound into volumes for eventual dispersal in courts of law, legislative chambers, and public facilities where you're invited to eat all you want. You know what he's complaining about? The Orphic Baroque spirals on my chart.
Yeah, I don't think he would have made a very good councilman. I don't think he would have been happy with the job. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't, but he had the ability to be that if you wondered what he would be. He wouldn't be president, he'd be a local guy. But do you get that? The cheese is the Orphic Baroque spirals of excess trivia.
It's like a vortex of melted cheese.
Yeah, all the media that's produced since the 80s, since MTV. So that's committee cheese. If that doesn't fill you up, there's the exciting union cheese, the most readily available cheese type offered. The thing that's so exciting about union cheese, from a gourmet's point of view, is the classic simplicity of the mathematical formula from which it is derived. Now, this whole cheese thing is like the yuppie wine and cheese parties. There are 4 million of them happen every day at little gatherings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Smoozing. So it's all union cheese is the classic simplicity of the mathematical formula from which it is derived. In fact, it is difficult to avoid a state of total ecstasy if one contemplates the proposition that no import quota yet devised has proven equal to the task of neutralizing the lethal emissions generated by the ripening process of this pinkett native confection. Should we not be overtaken by someone? What's this? Is it a question mark? Yeah. Should we not be overtaken by not sure. Should we not be overtaken by some unspeakable emotion when we consider the fact that the smaller the amount of care taken in the preparation of each union cheese artifact, the more triumphant the blast as the vapor streamed forth from every nook and cranny of whatever it was that the stalwart craftsperson got paid $19 per hour to slap together. Still hungry? Still hungry, Scott?
Yeah, cheese.
he's got stretched cheese.
Yeah. Here, we've got 4 stomachs, right? Chemical body stomach, the astral stomach, the chip body stomach, and the TV body stomach. So all that is, he's calling the combustibles that you eat with these different extensions. He's calling it general cheese. Still hungry? Union cheese might be the most readily available, but no type of cheese in America today has achieved the popular acceptance of accountant cheese. If it is true that you are what you eat, then surely our national willingness to eat this stuff tells us more about ourselves than we probably wish to know. Obviously, we have found the cheese to believe in. Why not? It is manufactured by people who count money, It is manufactured by people who count money, endorsed as nutritionally sound by civic leaders, and delivered by the media door to door. He mentions the word media. It's interesting how
it's capitalized.
It's kind of conventional. He must have been noting something I'd said around that time. And delivered by the media door to door. The quality of our lives, if we think of this matter in terms of how much of what we individually consider to be beautiful are we able to experience every day, seems an irrelevant matter. Okay, that's right. I said it'd have to be an irrelevant matter, right? I predicted this.
Mm-hmm.
He's now saying it is. If it seems an irrelevant matter, or the quality seems quality of our lives seems an irrelevant matter. Now that all decisions regarding the creation and distribution of works of art, all environments of works of art, must first pass under the limbo bar, also known as the bottom line. Limbo bar is the early 60s. Along with things like taste and the public interest, all tied like a tin can to the wagging tail of the sacred prime rate poodle. And he's talking about the Android meme, the word makes the market. That's what he's complaining about. The whole global economy based on the word of the Fed. The aforementioned festering poot is coming your way to a theater or drive-in near you. You know, they always turn whatever shit's happening into movies. What's that Arthur Lee saying, Forever Changes? The Love album, the movies of today will be the news of today will be the movies of tomorrow. It wakes you up every morning as it droozles out of your digital clock radio. An arts council somewhere is getting a special batch ready with little tuxedos on it so you can think it's precious. Yes, Virginia, there is a free lunch. We are eating it now. Can I get you a napkin?
A napkin?
Napkin. So there's your free lunch, the abundance of the 70s and 80s, the Orphic Baroque spirals of all kinds of human
Step right up. Get your fresh media right here. All you can eat.
So actually, he's been conceptually consistent by taking a major metaphor, Susie cream cheese. This may help illustrate what Susie cream cheese is.
Yeah.
Susie cream cheese is your consumer of the 60s. And now you have a collective.
I get the whole cheese thing now. It's just, that's what the mice go for. It's just an appetite. It's a mindless appetite for something that you think is that you have an obsession to consume, but it's mindless consumption, and it ultimately doesn't result in satisfaction.
Yeah, he doesn't get the phatic nature of consumption. This could. The Android meme was correct in rejecting this. It had offered no perception. It was just idiosyncratic.
He's just complaining about the mediocrity that he sees all around.
Yeah, which is a mediocre complaint and conventional. And then he makes it sort of interesting by putting in the weird metaphor of cheese, and that's why they call it idiosyncratic. But he didn't care. He was keeping it consistent with what he'd written before. Now, if you go into...
I mean, politically speaking, he was relatively conservative.
Old-fashioned.
Yeah, old-fashioned.
He was an all-American.
Didn't he call himself a conservative?
Yeah, he's not a social conservative, financial conservative.
Yeah, and he was kind of... Don't you think he was a bit of a constitutionalist?
Oh, yeah. No, he became a neocon. Yeah. That's what the neocon interests are.
Well, he wanted to tax church and drugs, and so neocons wouldn't want to tax the church, would they?
No, they wouldn't want to do that. He was an eccentric neocon. But the point is that he had this is when, see, the tough period for me and Carolyn was 77 to 90. That was when the solar car...
What do you mean by tough? What explain, were you a stressed cheese?
No, we were more than that. We were murderers looking for people to murder, and everybody else was murdering everybody else, and we were fucking out of business. Like, hey, can't we get to kill anybody? What is that? When's my turn?
Oh, stop it! Yeah.
What?
So that's the
Carlos the Jackal.
Oh yeah. What'd you say, Scott?
The movie I'm trying to reference, not.
I mean, you know what Carolyn did? Carolyn went overground to hide. She became a fucking doctor just to hide our past. And of course, well,
She didn't like being a doctor, so she
it worked out pretty well.
What did you say?
Well, she didn't like being. She discovered she didn't like being an allopath, so then she became a homeopath and a naturopath. Right.
And what did James say?
Oh, I said it's worked out pretty well.
Well, that's what I say is that it was hell from 77 to 90, and the cold fusion happened.
What's that movie who was the guy that did the Kennedy movie?
Oliver Stone.
Oliver Stone. What's the movie that he did the year?
Natural Born Killers.
Natural Born Killers. Yeah, that's a good metaphor for that period of time for you.
Yeah, and it looked pretty bleak in all levels until cold fusion, which happened on March 23rd or so, 1989. And that was the breakthrough. In other words...
What was the cold fusion breakthrough?
The Ponds of Fleischmann announcement.
Fleischmann, announced the discovery.
Yeah, it was like the end of, I think it was March 23rd. That's why they fucked up. They should have done it on March 22nd.
So then, when you and Ion released the tape, I guess that was... that was announcing the anniversary of the announcement of cold fusion.
We were announcing the anniversary?
Yeah.
Well, it was close. I mean, the session came through April 6th, and that would be 2010. That would be 17 chapters in Fitting His Wake. It keeps coming up, this 17. It came up with Zappa. Anyways, here's the point. That, I mean, we were having a pretty good time, but we recognized that, but this is pretty bad, and solar government was limping along, and so it was a lot of stress. And then when we had the breakthrough with cold fusion, and then Mir came in 91. When was Mir? Mir was summer of 90, And Carolyn got the D-cell formula in 91. It all happened real fast, total flip. And then we've been ecstatic ever since. We've had a good 20 years. And then it got capped off by Ion. But a long time ago, it was, it was just too much murdering going on for nothing.
Isn't there another meaning?
You mean like on the level of The Wire? That kind of murdering?
Well, that is what happened. It's sprinkling down the street. This was among the elites of society.
Well, was it happening with the same sort of random...
Yes, yeah. The Wire... You see, that's where 24 is what was happening. 24 is more accurate about my world. And then and then you have the popular expression of that, in 2000 by The Wire. That's where it filters down to everybody. But I'm looking at the list of articles, conceptual continuity. I'm trying to find, look at that. They've got the big node concept, the project-object concept, but where are articles listed? Maybe on the main page. Because there might be another article to do. Articles by Zappa. That's what we want. He did one in 19...
How much, just to ask, how much longer are we going to go tonight?
Not much longer.
Yeah.
Not much longer. There's the story of the evolution of the guitar's use in pop music. That was an interesting one. Where is it? Doesn't have much of it. Hey, you know why?
Why?
I guess they don't have them all. They list them, but they're not, if you click on it, nothing happens.
Oh, maybe no one's filled the page up. They just made a link to the page for someone to create it.
Okay.
Template.
Well, let's end with that, Thud. We didn't get anything. Another failure, sponsored by Frank. I think it's good the way we went ranting on about the lyrics. We were inspired there. We came up with a unique way to predict ion, the ionization that Zappa predicted. We just keep discovering great stuff to prove everything.
Well, no, you got to bring get Ion to bring Zappa through next time so that we can actually find out what Frank thinks about all these wild allegations we're making.
No, that's not the point. We're not trying to match with what Frank did. We're trying to wake him up.
Yeah, we're trying to show what Frank really did. He didn't know it.
Okay. I like that.
That's what McLuhan did. McLuhan explains what Joyce was doing Finney's Wake better than Joyce knew.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why Ion says, "Let them may they rest in peace until Bob gets there."
Yeah, that's right.
I remember Ion talked about Lazarus kept trying to raise him from the dead, and they had to read the Tibetan Book of the Dead to get him to go back to essence or something.
Now that's a Scott distortion. I've heard one. Scott's always
he did say that. He did say that one time.
I never heard that.
But Tina asked him how the Tibetan Book of the Dead came about, and he said, "Well, it was because this corpse kept trying to come back alive. I think it was Lazarus or something like that."
No. What do we know about Lazarus? Ion says Jesus came along and says, "What the hell are you doing? You're fucking alive. Get up." He refused to believe that he was dead.
Oh. No,
that was Jesus. That was Jesus' technique.
Some other figure. Now I got the echo going. Well, there's some other figure that Ion referenced who kept trying to come back to life, and they were like, but his body was not reanimating. So it was like this corpse that kept trying to get up and walk around, and they started reading the Tibetan Book of the Dead so that he could return to essence.
I don't remember that, but the Ion says that Jesus' technique of healing people was to see them whole and not sick. That's all he did.
Mm.
Now, this Tibetan Book of Zen, is that on some obscure tailgate?
No, it was on maybe it was a tailgate, but it was back when Ion was participating.
Yeah, no, I don't remember that. It might have been said, but I forgot that one.
Yeah.
But you remember that because you were all about the Tibetan Book of the Dead. That's your mascot.
Yeah, well, that was a new spin on that I'd never heard of. Why, one possibility how it came into what its use was, what it was useful for.
Well, you can count on Ion to give a new spin on any topic. That's guaranteed.
But we're not trying to send Frank back to Essence. We're trying to we're trying
to get him to show up to band practice.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a pretty big job. I think Frank was pretty capable of taking care of his own self.
Yeah. I'll rest with that. That's it, guys. I gotta go do some other crap. We just did 5 hours. That's not bad. 5 hours.